February 24th, 2017. I recently saw the TRAPPIST-1 discovery. Apparently they had discovered 3 of those planets orbiting a ultra-cool dwarf star, and then there was a follow-up examination of it and they found 4 more. So in total there are 7 Earth-sized objects orbiting TRAPPIST-1, which is really cool. They're orbiting really fast, between 1 and like 16 days. That's a pretty quick year. Some differences, compare and contrast for my listeners. Of course I was going to make this talk, I just didn't get around to it. The first thing is that they label this star as an ultra cool dwarf star. It's sitting at around 2550 Kelvin. That's not an ultra cool dwarf star. Anybody that says 2550 degrees Kelvin is cool is clearly not in reality. A cool star in stellar metamorphosis is around 100 Kelvin. 7 planets orbiting about the same size mass as Earth. That's interesting. Planets to them can mean a wide range of objects, and they all clump them together. Jupiter is just like Neptune, is just like Earth. They're just a planet. Nothing to see here. They all have the same definition. In stellar metamorphosis, they're not the same. These objects are late-stage ocean worlds or black dwarfs. To say that they're planets is to not really classify them based off of their physical characteristics. That's just to clump them together and make them different from stars. Again, planets are not different from stars. A planet is an evolving star. It's a very old star. The ages they have for this TRAPPIST-1 system, they have the main star as being older than 1 billion years. I don't have a problem with that. They're probably right. But I also noticed that they have in the article that it's probably at least 500 million years old. And the theory I'm developing, stellar metamorphosis, it has the age of the host star around 300 million years. So it's relatively young compared to something like Earth. But maybe I would say between 300 million years and 1 billion years old is how old the star is, the main one. The ones orbiting it, the orbiting planets, I did not read their pages on those, but we can guarantee that the establishment is going to have the host star be the same age as its orbiting stars because of the theory they have. The theory they have is false, and it does not accurately represent reality. So if they have the star as, say, 1.5 billion years old, all the other orbiting objects are also going to be 1.5 billion years old, regardless if they're highly evolved and they're very, very different. In stellar metamorphosis, the objects orbiting the ultra-cool dwarf star, which is basically a red dwarf or auburn dwarf, they're greater than 3 billion years old. So, of course, that's a big no-no for theory. If you have an object much, much older than what it's orbiting, it means it was adopted by that object. And it means they weren't in the same vicinity forever. So, greater than 3 billion years old, each one of those objects orbiting TRAPPIST-1. Another very problematic idea here is their outdated version of what it means to host life. They have their habitable zone, which is the zone where liquid water can exist on the surface of a planet because of the heat of a radiating star that's orbiting. You sit the planet too far away, the water turns to ice. You sit it too close, the water evaporates away and it doesn't have any water on it. Of course, that's assuming that these objects have been in orbit around their host star since their formation, so clearly it's another falsehood that we have to navigate around. The actual planet habitable zone, or star habitable zone, is in its atmosphere. Because to melt down water, all it depends is that you have a heat source. That's it. That's what it takes to melt water. I'm sure these physicists can understand that. So if the planet is hot in its interior, it can clearly heat water internally. And it can be orbiting wherever. It doesn't need to actually orbit a host star in order to have water oceans. see here. Of course, habitable zone doesn't even make any sense if there's no water to melt down. So all 7 of these objects could be dry worlds. There could be nothing on them at all. They just could be like Mars, where it's just a thin CO2 atmosphere and just a bunch of rocks scattered about. I highly doubt that to be true. Well, because of wishful thinking for one, but the number one way to see if these objects are actually hosting life and probably have water oceans, and naturally it's not mentioned in the habitable zone hypothesis, is they have magnetic fields. That's going to be the next step. That's what they need to figure out if these objects are actually hosting life, is to see if they have magnetic fields. A star or a black dwarf that does not have a magnetic field, it cannot protect the life that it forms even if there's water on the surface. And as well, if there's no magnetic field, then chances are the irradiance of a hotter host probably evaporated all the water anyways. So not only will there not be any life, there won't be any water. It'll just be a dead world, and I drew a little picture here for you guys. You have your magnetic field, and alive, yay! And you have a dead world, and there's an irradiating star ripping it away. But basically, that's what it really amounts to. You shouldn't take 1950s theory and apply it to 21st century science. You should toss a lot of the outdated theories and hypotheses out and replace them with theories and hypotheses that make sense. Naturally, I don't believe that they're going to do that because, well, they have their heads where the sun doesn't shine. Alright, y'all. Later.